Hey, 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 everyone. Welcome back to Strange Mind 6. I'm your host, Ruby, and today we're going to be getting back into Chicken Soup for the Dog Lover's Soul Stories of Canine Companionship, Comedy, and Courage by Jack Canfield, Mark Victor Hansen, Marty Becker, DVM, Carol Klein, and Amy D. Shoja. Speaking of canine companions, you guys might hear in the background a little bit of noise. It's my puppy. He's playing with his toy and he is not letting go of it. But before we begin, I'd like to ask if you guys can please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It'd mean a great deal to me if you did. And without further ado, my dear friends, grab a snack, grab a drink, or sit back and relax, and let's get to it. Blue parts the veil of sadness. A black and white border collie came to our house to stay. Her smiles brushed life's cobwebs away. Only Blue knows of her life before she was tucked into a small space with wired walls labeled animal shelter. We had been without a dog for a couple of months when Blue's telepathic message, "I need a loving family," reached the ears of our teenage daughter, Christine. At the time, our family of 6 had a home in the country, a small acreage bordered the Plateau River outside of Casper, Wyoming. Resident pets included an assortment of aquarium fish, laying hens, and a few silky chickens that resided in the chicken coop. The 4-H bunnies nestled in their hutch, a Manx cat dressed in doll's clothes often accompanied our younger daughters during their imagery or imaginary adventures, and last but not least, trotted Smokey, our 2-year-old quarter horse. Into our Wyoming Noah's Ark came Blue. Needless to say, she was overwhelmed. To hide from the confusion of her new surroundings, Blue sought an invisible cloak in a variety of shapes. She took cover beneath the chicken coop, under the hay manger, the water trough of the loading chute, any place where she was in the shadows of the activity but could observe our day-to-day routines. Her behavior gave us clues to the abuse that she'd endured before coming to our home. It left her cowering whenever a hand was raised to pat her, or voices were too loud for her sensitive soul. Yet, as the weeks dissolved into months and our calendar pages went out with the trash, Blue's demeanor changed. She progressed from following us during chores to romping out front as our leader. When someone approached her with a hand for a pat, Blue no longer cringed or slunk away. Instead, she sought affection from us. If we didn't acknowledge her when she came near, Blue would nudge our hand until she received the hug and loving words she now enjoyed. She trotted alongside Smokey when the girls rode him bareback. Blue's herding instincts were displayed when she gathered stray chickens and drove them back into the coop. After playing tag with the cat, Blue's impish smile was reflected by anyone observing her play. At the close of the day, Blue rested at the bedside of one of our daughters, like our children. She listened to rapt attention to their bedtime stories. The beauty of her canine soul touched our lives in many ways. Then, one cold evening, she showed us her remarkable capacity to love. That year, 11-year-old Joan and her sister Kathy were each given a calf to raise for their 4-H projects. Morning and evening, they faithfully made sure there was fresh water in the trough and food in the bunker for their calves. When the colder weather arrived in late fall, they made straw bedding inside the calving shed. One evening, the cold stiffness of winter hung icicles off the barn roof and wrapped a blanket of snow across the meadow. I had just put dinner in the oven when Kathy replied from the back porch. Sorry, I'm a little parched. Mother, hurry! Joan's calf is hurt. Zipping up my jacket, I ran to the barn, where I found Joan sitting on the snow-covered ground. Blue lay close to Joan's side, while the calf lay across her lap. Legs stiff, blue wool mittens off. Joan's one hand cradled the calf's head, the other clamped nostrils shut, while she blew puffs of air into the calf's mouth. Tears streamed down her cheeks. She's barely breathing, Mommy. She blew again into the calf's mouth. I found her lying here, all by herself. I don't want her to die. Honey, she could have been kicked by another cow. You need to understand that she may have injuries inside beyond our help. I know. She wiped the tears trickling down her cheek. Let's get her into the house where it's warm. I carried the calf. Blue followed close to Joanne. Only the kitchen clock marked the passage of time. While we worked on the calf, Blue kept her vigil just paw steps away from Joanne. The calf's labored breathing stopped. I hugged Joan close. I'm sorry, honey. She was too little to die. Why? The sadness on her face was like a blow to my chest. I gulped for air. My mind whispered, "Oh, honey, I wish I could protect you from death, but I can't." I felt so hopeless. I said, Injuries from an accident don't always heal. Sometimes the animal or person dies, and for a little while we cry our sadness." Kathy took her sister's hand. "I'll share my calf with you." "That's okay. I don't want another one right now." My vision blurred while I explained to Joanne, that when an animal or person died, it was only the end of a tangible life, that her dad and I believed life was ongoing for the soul. Before my words were out, I realized that there would be a time later for us to talk about our spiritual beliefs. To help Joan build the personal strengths that would ease her through her losses and other losses. Just now, she was an inconsolable little girl, and I didn't know how best to help. As I watched, Blue crawled across the floor and put her head in Joan's lap. Blue nudged her hand until her fingers moved through her black and white fur. Slowly, Joan bent her neck and kissed the top of Blue's head. The dog raised her head and looked into Joan's eyes. No words were needed in those quiet moments when unconditional love touched Joan's bruised spirit. She hugged Blue and whispered, "I love you too." Filled with wonder, I witnessed a black and white border collie who was once afraid to love, part the veil of sadness from my young daughter's heart. Margaret Hevel. The Haunted Bowl. It's not much to look at, just a big old cream-colored bowl. You know, one of those old-fashioned crock bowls with a shiny glaze except on the bottom and around the rim. It's thick and heavy, with short vertical sides. For almost 30 years, that old bowl has occupied a place on my kitchen floor. It came from Jackson's Hay and Feed, one of those tin-roofed feed stores, the kind with a dusty wooden floor, the pungent aromas of alfalfa and bags of feed, and the sounds of cheeping, fuzzy yellow chicks in an incubator. At $4.95, it represented a major investment for college student drawing $90 a month on the GI Bill. Today it came out of the cupboard where it was stored after Cheddar, my dear old yellow lab, had to be put down. It had just seemed too big to feed the puppy, until now the puppy, another yellow girl I named Camois, is growing fast. Now, at almost 18 weeks of age, she's ready for the bowl. She'll be the third lab to eat from it. Swamp was the first. For 13 years, Swamp ate her meals from the bowl. Now, as I look at it, sitting on my kitchen floor, I can see Swamp as clearly as if she were here. She liked to lie on the floor with the bowl between her front legs when she ate. Her last meal came from that bowl, a special food for dogs with failing kidneys. She'd been on it since September. The vet told me she had about 4 months left, so I started looking for a puppy. Swamp rode with me out to a farm on the windy Kansas prairie. The farmer had about 10 kennels runs. On one side were labs and the other side were pointers. He said, "I don't usually sell 'em to people who don't hunt." I confessed I was not a hunter, but Swamp worked her magic, and soon we were driving home with a precocious yellow puppy we named Cheddar. The bowl got Cheddar into trouble. She tried to eat from it when Swamp was holding it between her paws. A quick growl and a snap of Swamp's powerful jaws, and we were racing to the vet's for a couple of stitches on her nose. I hadn't thought of that for years. Now, with the bowl sitting here on the kitchen floor, it seems like yesterday, and as if it were yesterday, I again experienced the sharp pangs of grief felt so many years ago when we drove Swamp to the same clinic and said goodbye. That night, Cheddar ate her first meal from the bowl, and for the next 15 years it was filled with her favorite food every morning. Cheddar's technique was different from Swamp's. She'd walk up to the bowl, get a chunk or two in her mouth, and walk away as she crunched the kibble. When she'd circle back for another bite, she always ate half the food. In the morning, the other half just before bedtime. It was a pattern that never varied. That old $4.95 bowl is probably the only thing I still own that was mine 30 years ago. It has served us well, and tonight, Camois will eat her first meal from it. I wonder if she knows how valuable it is and what it means to me. I wonder if she knows it's Halloween and that her meal tonight will be served in a haunted bowl, a big old cream-colored bowl, haunted by the ghosts of swamp and cheddar. 1,000 pungent memories. When she knows, will she know, as she eats, that a black ghost will lie down and wrap her front legs around the bowl, and that a yellow ghost will grab a bite and then circle back for more? Will she see the tears in my eyes before I turn away and stare into the past? Or will she just devour the food, lick her chops, and wag her busy tail? John Arrington. And that is where we are going to leave it, my dear friends. Tune in next video for more stories of chicken soup for the dog lover's soul. This has been Ruby, signing off.